All right, welcome. Today we're tackling a huge question, maybe one of the biggest. What exactly is life? I mean, it sounds simple, but the closer you look, the trickier it gets. So let's pull back the curtain and uncover the secret rules that really separate the living from the non-living.
So, to get started, let's chew on a little puzzle. You're walking along. You see a shell on the ground. It's perfectly still, looks for all the world just like a rock. But inside, there might be a living, breathing snail. So what's the real, fundamental difference between that shell and a plain old stone?
Okay, let's muddy the waters a bit more. A pigeon is alive. A car is not. That seems pretty obvious, we can all agree on that. But what about the things they have in common?
Think about it. A pigeon flies, a car drives. They both get from point A to B. So if movement is a sign of life, does that make a car alive? No way. See, that tells you right away we've got to dig deeper to find the real rules that define what it actually means to be a living thing.
And that brings us to the heart of it all. It turns out, scientists have pinned down a set of characteristics that all living things share. You can think of them as the 7 secret rules of life. So let's break them down.
Okay, rule number 1, movement. Simple enough, right? Animals walk, they fly, they swim, but this rule hits a snag almost immediately when you think about plants. They just seem to stand there.
But this just shatters the idea that plants are static. They absolutely move. You've got insect eaters like the Drosera with these hairs that literally snap shut to trap a meal, or think about climbing plants that actively twist and turn to wrap around things. It's a different kind of movement for sure, but it is 100% movement.
All right, rule 2, growth. All living things get bigger over time. This one feels pretty straightforward, and it's something every single one of us knows from personal experience.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Can you still squeeze into the shoes or the clothes you wore 4 or 5 years ago? Of course not. That permanent increase in size, that's a core sign of life, and you are literally living proof of it.
The third rule is all about reacting to the world. You touch a hot stove, you yank your hand back without even thinking. That immediate reaction to a stimulus, in this case the heat, is a crucial characteristic of being alive. And again, this is not just for animals. You see some amazing examples of this in the plant world. There's the touch-me-not plant, or mimosa, that folds up its leaves the second you touch them. Or other plants like the amla tree, whose leaves close up every single night when the sun goes down. They are constantly sensing and responding.
Okay, so let's pull it all together. Here's the full list. We've hit movement, growth, and responding to stimuli. But there are 4 more essentials. Living things need nutrition, food for energy. They respire or breathe to unlock that energy. They excrete to get rid of waste. And this one's a biggie, they reproduce. These 7 rules together, they're our definitive checklist for life.
But now it's time for the ultimate test. We have our rules. We think we've got it figured out. So let's apply them to one of nature's biggest puzzles, the seed. This is where it gets really, really cool. So I'm asking you, you're holding a simple bean seed in your hand. It's just sitting there. Is it alive? Or is it basically just a tiny, inanimate object? Let's run it through our checklist and see what happens.
And you know what? When we test it, the seed seems to fail across the board. It's not moving, it doesn't look like it's breathing or growing, it isn't eating anything. According to our rules, it looks completely non-living. But we all know that's not the whole story, right?
And here is the solution to the paradox. The seed isn't dead, it's just sleeping. It's dormant. All that incredible potential for life is locked inside, just waiting for the right keys. The first key is water, which softens up that tough outer shell. The second is air, which lets that tiny little embryo inside finally wake up and start to breathe and grow.
And once that life is unlocked, that tiny seed begins an absolutely incredible journey. So let's follow along and see how this one little beginning builds into the entire life story of a plant.
So the bean plant story follows this beautiful, predictable arc. It starts as a seed, right? Then it germinates, sprouting into a little seedling that pushes up toward the sunlight. It matures, it flowers, and then it produces fruit, in this case, bean pods full of new seeds. And eventually, the original plant dies. But it's left behind the next generation, all ready to start that cycle over again.
Now, as amazing as that journey is, believe it or not, the animal kingdom has life cycles that are even more wild. They go through a radical transformation called metamorphosis, where their body completely changes from one form to another.
Just take the mosquito. It's like it lives 4 totally separate lives. It starts as an egg on the water, hatches into a squiggly, worm-like larva that swims around. Then it becomes this non-moving pupa, just resting. And then, bam, it emerges as a flying adult. It's almost impossible to believe they're all the same creature. And the frog's transformation is just as mind-blowing. It goes from a glob of jelly-like eggs to a fish-like tadpole with a tail to a froglet that starts growing legs while its tail shrinks away. And finally, it becomes an adult frog that lives on both land and in water. I mean, what a change!
And what's really cool is when you put them side by side, you see this fascinating pattern, don't you? Both have 4 stages, both spend their youth in water. But look at the end result. One becomes a flying insect, the other becomes an amphibian. Life is using a similar playbook to create totally different players on the world stage. It's amazing.
So, from a plant's relatively straight path to a tadpole's complete makeover, all of these cycles, all of them, they serve one ultimate purpose. They aren't just stories about one individual. They are all links in a much, much bigger chain.
And it all comes down to this. This is the final, most important rule. All of these incredible, complex life cycles, all the growing and moving and changing, it is all for one thing: reproduction. That's the mechanism that ensures life itself keeps going, forging that unbreakable chain from one generation to the next.
So, we figured out the rules for a single living thing. But that just blows the door open to an even bigger question, doesn't it? If these are the secret rules for an individual life, what are the rules that govern how all of these lives connect, interact, and weave together to form the entire living world? Now that is something to think about. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.